everybody, and welcome to the finale of the expectations of an avid gamer for Bayonetta 3. So, there is going to be spoilers in here, because the ending is something that I would like to talk about a little bit. I'll go into it more in length in my Everything Great About video, but I do want to specifically address it here, since this is more of like a freeform kind of thing. So, spoilers all throughout this video. If you don't want to be spoiled, then I would recommend going and playing the game before coming back. I don't really have a specific timestamp. There's a handful of parts that I'm going to talk about here in the beginning that are non-spoilery, but everything else is major spoilers for the ending, so you have been warned. Mostly, I just have a couple of little notes. Like I said, there's only a handful of things I want to talk about because I'm going to cover this in a little more in depth in the Everything Great About video. But I do want to point out that after the finale rolled and I played a little bit more of the game itself, I found out that collecting all of the Umbran tears in a level, so there's 3 of them, you can pick up from a cat, a bird, which I assume is a raven, and a toad. If you pick up the Umbran tears from each of them in a level, you can unlock like a kind of Gaiden level, a kind of like a here's a couple of extra fights kind of deal, and you can unlock new weapons. So one of the little portals that I went through in the main campaign had the Alrune thorn whips, and I was just like, okay, cool, I can't wait to get to that in the campaign. That never showed up even after I beat the game, so I was like, what the hell? And I looked it up, and you know, because some people had review copies and stuff early, they had the answers. You had to go through and get all of the Umbran tears in level 3, and then go beat that little Gaiden portal thing afterwards. So you did that, and it's kind of a cool thing because you can unlock more, and I mean, you unlock quite a few weapons in here. You can unlock more weapons and summons from the looks of it. I haven't gotten anything outside of the very last one, which gives you the Kraken summon that was in the beginning, and like a little anchor hook shot thing. It shoots like an anchor out, and it's, you know, a melee weapon. In typical Bayonetta fashion, so you get that, and then in the 3rd level, which is where you get the Alrune, because that was the one I actually really wanted to use, and you know, had I known that, I would have gone back and got the tier sooner, and actually used it in like the end game. But that, I just thought that was a neat little thing, so like, it's not just the weapons that you go through the campaign. So the thing that I said in my prior expectations, where I was like, it doesn't look like you can pick up any LPs. I mean, that's still true, but you can get additional weapons that aren't just given to you by the main campaign. And I guess on that point, I'll go through my reality checklist and see if there's anything additional that I need to or should correct. One of them is the still scenes outside of the Chaos Gates. I mean, that still rings true, but at the time that I made that initial impression, I had only seen one of them, and that was in like 2.5, 3 hours of the game, and you know, by then I would have seen more of those still scenes, so you actually do see a bit more of that. So they do still have that for a stylized thing, but instead of only certain cutscenes, I mean, it's still certain cutscenes, but instead of certain cutscenes through the game, it is specifically about the multiple variants of Bayonetta. So it is still used in a stylish way. It's just not used quite as often, and it's only used in like one specific case scenario. And what else I said in the reality about side missions being a thing now? It is marked as a side mission on there, but it is actually just specifically Jean's efforts to go get Dr. Sigurd, which are still friggin' awesome. It's a cool little gameplay gimmick of doing a little side-scroller sneaky mission with Jean. I still love it. it was one of the first things. Like, I thought there was plenty of things that were funny in there, but it was one of the first things that made me audibly laugh hard because it was unexpected and hilarious. Another thing too was the movement styles with the different weapons. They took some time to get used to. Some of them are annoying. Like, for instance, I really like the staff / microphone that you get. That is Balls, the giant ball, Baal, not Ball. Part of her summon. So, it turns you into, and every weapon has their own like little transformation thing, which that was another thing that I kind of wish got a little more highlight. The different Bayonetta, the different forms of Bayonetta, the Demon Masquerade, but I guess it's supposed to just be a little gameplay thing. I wish there could have been a little bit of a thing in some of the cutscenes, but I don't know, maybe they didn't have the budget at the time or a good way to implement it in there. Not really sure. But digressing off of that point, I really liked the weapon itself, especially because, outside of using swords, I really like using spears in game, and that was the closest thing to a spear, and it was just kind of neat. But the movement style on it does kind of annoy me because it is her as the, frog demon kind of hopping and strutting and skipping around, and it just, I don't know what it is about it. I don't particularly care for that one, but I like the battle system of using it, which, I mean, I prefer the Alrune weapon, and I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but the Hat and Cane from the Lady Thief version of Bayonetta, the fourth variant. So it's, some of the movement styles are just annoying with it. Another nice thing I think it would have been good to have would be like a weapon wheel or a swap through like in Devil May Cry 5, because at this point, since there is no hands and feet specific customization, it's just equipping one weapon per set. It would have been a lot better to be able to cycle through them on the go instead of having to switch them in the pause menu and yada yada. And you could even do like in Devil May Cry 5, where if you only want specific weapons, you can only equip specific ones to go through your rotation, and then like manually select them if you need / want them, instead of having to go into the pause menu and customize your loadout every single time. It's a small tweak that most people probably wouldn't even want, but I'm thinking of like hardcore people who are going to play this game over and over and over to get pure platinum on each level, or even people like me who just like going back and replaying stuff because it's a really fun combat system. It will be nice, instead of just having two, to be able to go through your full arsenal, because like I said, at the end game, I think you are given 10 weapons, give or take, through the main campaign. And if you have Bayonetta 1 and 2 saves, you get the Scarborough Fair and Love is Blue. And then, as I said, I've got 2 additional weapons from the little gates that are sides off of your main goals. So I don't really think it's a bad system as it is right now, but it could be streamlined a little bit better. As I said, it was really, really fun to play. I cannot stress enough, I think this is the most fun it is to play Bayonetta, just because of the crazy things you can do. I mean, with Ball, the big frog demon, she can sing, and if she sings 4 times uninterrupted, she brings down this massive poison rain that does an insane amount of damage. And you can be doing that on top of your regular fighting. If you're doing it properly, and it's really fun to do that. There's a demon train that is a little unwieldy to use, but it's still kind of fun knowing that I can just run down the homunculus in a demon train. That is all of the like really good positive things I have to say. I am gonna move on to the ending bit, so this is the last warning for spoilers before I get into talking a little bit about the ending. As I said, I'm going to go in more depth with this in my Everything Great About video, but I do want to talk about it here because it is just struck me a little strange, and I want to talk about it. So, spoiler bit starting in 3, 2, 1. So the ending was odd. I don't hate that Bayonetta and Luca ended up together, but the way it happened feels wrong. Because Luca has been this bumbling fucking idiot the entire time we've known him. And then he just kind of swoops in and saves the day in the 11th hour, and then Bayonetta's all, "Oh, Luca, I've always loved you, my bumbling idiot." And it's just like, it doesn't feel quite like character assassination, but it just feels weird. I know Bayonetta has her weak moments, and she has her moments where she has dropped this tough, badass outer layer that she normally has and gets a little bit softer, but for Luca, it seems strange. I mean, I kind of get it. You know, she falls in love with the lovable goof, but it, to me, feels off. I think her and John were a much better pair, and especially since it's never been official in any of the games or anything, but it's very, very heavily hinted at that they are the couple, which I said that in my Bayonetta 2 video, because that's what I truly believed, and I wrote all that before Bayonetta 3 came out, and it feels strange to me that they had this nice little bittersweet moment before they both got drugged down to hell because Bayonetta dies, which I'm actually okay with that aspect, you know, it happens. Whenever Viola was introduced, just kind of the way that she's very much the Nero of Bayonetta. She really is, because she's kind of dead weight, so that gets to continue on. But it just, I don't know, it doesn't feel completely wrong to me that Bayonetta and Luca ended up together, but at the same time, it doesn't really feel right. It's still going to take some time to process it on which side I'm on, but right now, I'm not super crazy about it. I mean, if Jean had been the one to come in, I personally think it would have been better, which at this point, Jean is dead too. Basically, all of the old cast, except for Enzo and Rodin, are, like, dead. They are very much gearing up, it looks like, for a kind of soft reboot of Bayonetta, because now Viola has the title of... She has the title of Bayonetta. They call her that. And that's like one of the last things that's said in this game. And it was something that Bayonetta wanted her to have, and Viola ends up being Luca and Bayonetta's daughter from an alternate timeline, and there's so much working with this story that doesn't feel like it fits because it wasn't ramped up at all. Like, if we were told, which it's kind of obvious, just knowing some of the things that I know about writing and new characters and this certain aspect and how things are presented in there, it's fairly obvious from the start that she is Bayonetta's daughter, or at the very least she has some kind of strong connection. I did think at first that she was just like Bayonetta's mentor or pupil. And then as things went on, I was like, okay, this is starting to feel a little less like pupil and a little more like daughter. And then it was confirmed, and I was like, okay, I'm not really surprised about that. But I kind of feel like they could have done the whole... And, you know, it's not like Viola doesn't know this whole time. So this could have been something brought up and expanded upon. But, like, all of these major plot things just happen in the last, like, 45 minutes to an hour of this. And even the main antagonist, he wasn't built up at all. Baldur was slowly built up over Bayonetta 1. Aesir, the Lopter side of Aesir, he was there all throughout Bayonetta 2. But Sigurd is just, they mentioned going to get the doctor, and then John gets there and it's, hey Sigurd and whatever, but like his name is only mentioned as the Singularity, and really the only clue you're ever given is like 5 minutes before his reveal of being Singularity, when he's in his wheelchair pod thing and these little tentacle doodlies sprout out. And then it's just like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh fuck, he's Singularity. And then I was like, well, maybe he's not. Hopefully he's not, because that would be stupid. And then he was Singularity, and I was like, wow, that is really fucking stupid, because they didn't build that up at all. That's the problem with this. The only real thing I could complain about with Bayonetta 3 is that there was a lot of things that were put in here that wasn't properly built up to. They just threw stuff in there. And I know Bayonetta's story has never been the most concise thing ever. It took me a while to actually grasp Bayonetta 1's story, because the way that it was told was kind of in the air. And, I'm not going to say that Bayonetta 1 or 2 didn't fucking back-end the story stuff, but it feels way more back-ended here. Beyond that, my only other real gripe is that the multiverse aspect was cool, but there wasn't enough done with it. It was just, here's this new level, here's this different Bayonetta, go play through the level. And after the first couple of Bayonettas died, I was just like, okay, so the next one is gonna die, and the next one's gonna die. That's not fucking interesting. Knowing that they're gonna die because we have to get their weapon and their new summon. Like, it would have been so much better if you could have formed a connection with these other Bayonettas, and they could have had this big climactic thing with the boss at the end, and then he could have killed them off. As they were fighting, they could have had an all-scale war, and they just slowly, one by one, got picked off by him. That would have been much better, to actually see them interact and team up, instead of Bayonetta barely seeing them, and in a few instances getting to control the other Bayonettas, and then just boop, they're dead, so you automatically get their summon and their weapon. And after the second one, it was mostly just like, okay, well, how is this gonna go? How am I gonna get this person's weapon or summon? Because sometimes you actually do get a variant of Jean and a variant of Rosa too, that you get their weapon and summon, and it's just like, okay, this is a little worse too, because it's going to Jean and Rosa as well. It's not just the other Bayonettas, we're getting everything. And it was kind of boring knowing that they were just going to die so that I could get their weapons. This Bayonetta, more than anything else, anything the other two has presented, this one feels the least like Bayonetta. Like, I've always seen Bayonetta as this just absolute badass female, this badass woman that could do anything, and she didn't need a man to do anything. She didn't really need anybody to do anything. She had her friends like Jean that she would do things for, but she didn't need Jean to protect her. She could protect herself, and she could do all these things by herself, and it just almost seems like Bayonetta is just so passive compared to how she was, because we just, like I said, we get to watch all these other Bayonettas die. Not that they just took it lying down. They went out with a fight. But with that and the whole thing, the ending with Luca, it just didn't quite hit me. I still very much love the game. Overall, I loved it. I didn't quite hate the ending, because it was kind of sweet that Viola is now living in what is assumedly Bayonetta's reality now. I guess they, after New York just flooded, they kind of skipped over that too, which is annoying. Either they went to a new reality, or they just like fixed that New York like it was nothing after it got completely fucking flooded. And Viola has her mom's glasses and her dad's scarf, and she's still working as like a demon hunter. Or an angel I actually don't know what her deal is. She goes off on missions and does stuff for the Gates of Hell, for Rodan. And it's a nice little, hey, we're wrapping up the story of Bayonetta, so now we're going to have new Bayonetta, which is just Viola, who has the title. I don't hate that aspect of the ending. It's just part of the things that the characters did and how they were written just doesn't quite mesh with me. I didn't love it as much as I was hoping, but I don't hate it as much as I was dreading either. I still think, at the very least, the gameplay is a very solid 9 out of 10. There's a couple of parts, like, I feel like you have to pull the trigger to do your sprinting animation. I feel like you have to pull it a lot quicker instead of having a slight delay like the older titles. I haven't played them in a minute, so I might just be wrong about that. But overall, I don't hate the game. I still think it's a very, very good, well put together game. I just think that the story and the writing did not do Bayonetta justice, especially for it taking so long to make. This is another one of those examples of overhype can kill a game. I was hyped for this game ever since the first trailer in 2017, and the hype never died down. It faltered a little bit in the last week before release due to the Helena Taylor's accusations. But I still was like, okay, I'm still going to be on board for this because I do want to play this. I've been waiting for so long to play this. And I can't say it enough. I don't hate the game, but it's just got a weird feeling. I will continue to play the game to completion, like like anything else. It has a Father Rodan fight, just like the last two, or I assume it's Father Rodan. It is the platinum ticket. There's a platinum ticket fight. I assume it's going to be Rodan again, but I haven't unlocked it as of this point yet because I'm just going back and doing some small cleanups here and there. And I'm still going to keep playing it to completion, but as far as Bayonetta was always this thing that I loved and was just always excited for, I don't know if I'm going to be able to say the same thing about the next Bayonetta, if there is a next Bayonetta. I assume there's going to be because they have Viola taking over the mantle, so they can still have a Bayonetta 4, even though our Bayonetta Cereza isn't in there. But it's now Viola with her having the title. Viola's another interesting thing just tacked on to the end here. I wasn't super keen on playing with her, but I think that's because over a decade of dodging through attacks to activate Witch Time instead of blocking just hasn't quite meshed with my brain yet. But I am trying to play her, and I am trying to get used to it. I do like her whole punk rock thing that she's got going on, and her being just a complete lovable doof. She's very much Bayonetta and Luca's kid because she is equal amounts of badass and goofy, and I do love the mix. So that's going to be it for this Expectations of an Avid Gamer, which is the finale of an Avid Gamer for Bayonetta 3. If I was going to give out a score, 8.5 to 9 out of 10. Very solid game. Just wasn't a fan of the writing and the characterization of these characters that I've loved for a decade. But beyond that, thank you for watching and listening to my ramblings. I hope you all have a wonderful day and try not to die out there.